I stood outside my parents' sprawling mansion, gathering courage like armor around me. The annual Evans family dinner, where success was measured in dollar signs and failures were served alongside the appetizers. 10 years of this tradition and somehow it never got easier. Through the Georgian windows I could see them all gathered in the dining room. My brother Marcus, the brilliant hedge fund manager, entertaining everyone with another story about his latest $1 million deal. My sister Sophia, who married the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, draped in designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. And my parents, beaming with pride at their 2 perfect children. Then there was me, Evelyn Evans, the family disappointment. Miss Evans. My assistant's voice crackled through my phone. The Tokyo office just confirmed the merger details. Should I forward you the final documents? Not now, Sarah, I whispered. I'm about to go into a family dinner. Unless the building's on fire, hold everything until tomorrow. I smoothed down my simple black dress. No designer labels, just clean lines and quiet elegance, and walked up to the door. Before I could knock, it swung open. Evelyn. Finally. My mother's voice carried that familiar note of carefully masked disappointment. Everyone's been here for an hour already. Sorry, Mom. Work ran late. She pursed her lips. Still at that desk job? I thought you would have found something better by now. I bit back a response. If she only knew that my desk job involved running one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. But Phoenix Technologies operated entirely through subsidiaries and shell corporations, with my identity as founder and CEO carefully hidden from public view. Only my executive team knew who really ran the company. The dining room fell quiet as I entered. Marcus looked up from his phone, his signature smirk already in place. Well, if it isn't our little office worker. He raised his wine glass in mock salute. Still pushing papers around that cubicle, sis? Sophia laughed, the sound tinkling like expensive crystal. At least she's persistent. How long has it been now, Eve? 5 years at the same entry-level position. 6 years, I corrected quietly, taking my seat. The same seat I'd occupied since childhood. At the far end of the table, away from the successful members of the family. My father cleared his throat. Now, not everyone can be as successful as you two. Evelyn is doing her best. The way he said it made doing her best sound like a terminal illness. Dinner proceeded as it always did. Marcus dominated the conversation with tales of his financial conquests, each deal bigger than the last. Sophia chimed in with stories about her husband's latest corporate takeover and their recent vacation in the Maldives. We just bought a summer house in the Hamptons, Marcus announced, helping himself to more wine. 17 bedrooms, private beach access. Cost me $20 million, but that's pocket change after my last deal. Oh, darling, that's wonderful. Mom clasped her hands together. We'll have to come visit. Won't we, Richard? She turned to my father, who nodded approvingly. Speaking of deals, Sophia added, Thomas just acquired another tech startup. Small company but promising. What was it called? Phoenix something. My heart stopped. Phoenix Technologies? I asked, keeping my voice carefully neutral. That's the one. Sophia beamed. Thomas says they're revolutionizing the industry. Very mysterious though, nobody knows who really owns it. Some silent CEO who never shows their face. Marcus snorted. Probably some old tech nerd who can't handle the spotlight. Thomas will whip them into shape. I took a slow sip of water, hiding my smile. Thomas, Sophia's supposedly brilliant husband, had been trying to acquire Phoenix Technologies for months. Each offer more desperate than the last, each one denied with a simple email from the board. Actually, I said quietly, I heard Phoenix isn't for sale. Marcus laughed so hard he nearly choked on his wine. And how would you know anything about major tech acquisitions, little sister? Still taking notes in board meetings for your boss? Just something I read. I shrugged, thinking about the acquisition offer I'd rejected that morning. Thomas's latest attempt had been almost pathetic. $2 billion for a company worth 5 times that amount. Well, enough about Evelyn's career, my mother interjected smoothly. Marcus, tell us more about your new yacht. I sat there, pushing food around my plate as Marcus launched into another self-congratulatory story. My phone buzzed silently in my lap. Another message from Sarah about the Tokyo merger. I ignored it. Tonight wasn't about business. Remember when Evelyn wanted to start her own company? Sophia suddenly asked, laughing at the memory. Right after college? What was it? Some kind of computer thing. Oh God, yes. Marcus slapped the table. She actually turned down that job at Goldman Sachs to work on her revolutionary idea. Dad nearly had a heart attack. My father's face darkened at the memory. Biggest mistake of her life. She could have been something by now. I remembered that day clearly. Standing in this very dining room trying to explain my vision for a new kind of technology company. One that would change how businesses operated globally. They had laughed then too. At least she came to her senses, my mother sighed. Found a nice stable job. Even if it's not quite what we hoped for. The weight of their condescension pressed down on me like a physical thing. 6 years I'd kept my secret, building Phoenix Technologies from nothing into a global powerhouse. 6 years of sitting quietly through these dinners, listening to their mockery, their disappointment, their judgment. Sophia raised her glass. To success, she declared. And to hoping some of it eventually rubs off on our dear Evelyn. They all laughed, clinking their crystal glasses. All except me. My phone buzzed again. This time I knew it would be important. Sarah never called twice unless it was urgent. Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to take this. Really, Evelyn? My mother frowned. During dinner? What could be so important at your level? I stepped into the hallway, my heels clicking against the marble floor. As I answered the phone, I didn't realize I was still within earshot of the dining room. Miss Evans, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Sarah's voice came through clearly, too clearly. But the Tokyo merger is ready for final approval. They need the CEO's signature on the $50 million deal immediately. The dining room fell silent. Did she say CEO? Marcus's voice carried from the other room. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. After 6 years, my carefully constructed facade was about to crumble. All because of one phone call. Yes, Sarah, I said, my voice steady. Put them through to my secure line. And please remind Mr. Watanabe that Phoenix Technologies doesn't make decisions based on time zone convenience. I turned around to find 5 pairs of eyes staring at me from the dining room doorway. My mother's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. The sound of breaking crystal seemed oddly appropriate for the moment everything changed. The shattered crystal glittered on the marble floor, each piece reflecting the stunned faces of my family. For a moment no one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was Sarah's voice still coming through my phone. Miss Evans? Should I schedule the board meeting for tomorrow morning? Make it 9 a.m., I replied, my eyes locked on my family. And Sarah? Cancel my afternoon. Something tells me I'll be busy dealing with family matters. I ended the call, slipping my phone into my pocket. The silence stretched like a rubber band ready to snap. Marcus broke first. You're lying, he sputtered, his face turning red. This is some kind of joke. I walked back to the dining room, my heels crunching over broken crystal. With deliberate calm, I picked up my laptop bag and withdrew a glossy financial report. Phoenix Technologies, I said, placing it on the table. Current market valuation, $10.2 billion. Employee count, 15,000 globally. And one CEO who's been letting her family mock her desk job for 6 years. Sophia grabbed the report, her perfectly manicured hands trembling. This is impossible. Thomas has been trying to acquire Phoenix for months. Yes, I smiled. Your husband's offers were quite persistent. Though $2 billion was a bit insulting. I'm worth at least 5 times that. My father sank into his chair, his face ashen. You're the mysterious CEO everyone's been talking about? The one who's revolutionizing the tech industry. The very same. I sat down, helping myself to more wine. Would you like to hear about my new yacht, Marcus? It has 20 bedrooms. Though I hardly think that's something to brag about. But, my mother stammered, still standing in the doorway. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. When should I have done that, Mom? When you were lamenting my wasted potential. Or maybe during one of Marcus's stories about his brilliant investments. Now wait just a minute. Marcus stood up, trying to regain his usual swagger. Anyone can wave around a financial report. Prove it. Prove you're really the CEO. I pulled out my phone again, dialing a number. Sarah? Please activate the video wall in the dining room. Right away, Miss Evans. The massive painting behind my father suddenly slid upward, revealing a hidden video screen. The Phoenix Technologies logo glowed to life, followed by real-time data from our global operations. I had this installed last year, I explained to my shocked family. During that renovation you were too busy to attend. Mother, you said the painting looked brighter somehow. That's because it's a digital recreation. Live feeds from our offices around the world filled the screen. Tokyo, London, Singapore, New York. All bearing the Phoenix logo, all reporting directly to me. That's not possible, Sophia whispered. Thomas said Phoenix Technologies was run by some old tech genius. Thomas says a lot of things, I replied. Like how he was going to whip us into shape once he acquired us. I particularly enjoyed that board meeting. Watching him present his innovative ideas, all of which we'd already implemented 2 years ago. My mother finally found her voice. But darling, why keep it a secret? We could have helped you. Helped me. I stood up slowly, placing both hands on the table. The way you helped when I first shared my vision? When you laughed at my dreams and told me to take the safe route. Oh, Mother. I didn't need your help. I needed you to believe in me. And you couldn't even do that. The screens behind me displayed our latest stock prices, profit margins, and global reach. Each number a testament to what I'd built alone. Do you know what today is? I asked softly. 6 years ago in this very room, you all told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Marcus, you bet me $10,000 that I'd come crawling back within a year, begging for a job at your firm. I reached into my bag and pulled out a check. Here's your $10,000 back. With interest. Though I should warn you, your firm's latest investment fund? The one you're so proud of? Phoenix owns 30% of it. We've been quietly buying shares for the past year. Marcus collapsed into his chair, his face drained of color. And Sophia, I turned to my sister, please tell Thomas his latest acquisition attempt is denied. Also, the tech startup he's so proud of acquiring last month? It's one of our subsidiaries. We sold it to him at a premium just to see if he'd bite. He did. You've been playing us this whole time, my father's voice was barely audible. All these years. No, Dad. I've been succeeding. You just couldn't see it because success to you only counts when it's loud, when it's showy, when it fits your narrow definition of achievement. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Sarah. Tokyo team is waiting for your sign-off, Miss Evans. I smiled at my family. If you'll excuse me, I have a $50 million merger to approve. Unless, of course, you'd like to hear more about my desk job? Wait, my mother called as I turned to leave. What about family dinners? What about our traditions? I paused at the doorway. I think it's time for new traditions. One where success isn't measured by who can brag the loudest, but by who can make a real difference in the world. And us? Marcus asked, his arrogance finally stripped away. What happens to us? That depends on you, I replied. Phoenix is always looking for talent. Real talent, not just family names and empty boast. If you're interested, send your resumes to HR. Just don't expect any special treatment. We have a very strict nepotism policy. I walked out of the dining room, leaving them with their shattered crystal and shattered illusions. As I reached my car, Sarah called again. Everything okay, Miss Evans? The Tokyo team is getting anxious. Everything's perfect, Sarah. And please, after tonight, I think you can call me Evelyn. I drove away from my parents' mansion, watching it shrink in my rearview mirror. 6 years of secrets had ended in one unexpected phone call. But as I thought about the looks on their faces, the years of condescension finally shattered like that wine glass, I realized something important. Success doesn't need an audience. Sometimes the quietest victories are the sweetest. The next morning, my inbox was flooded with emails from my family. Apologies, congratulations, and desperate attempts to rewrite history. Marcus attached his resume, all 5 pages of it. Sophia forwarded an email from Thomas, trying to salvage his dignity and possibly his career. I archived them all and focused on what really mattered. Running my company. A week later, I received an invitation to another family dinner. The note attached read, "Please come. We have so much to apologize for." I sent my response, "Can't make it. Board meeting in Tokyo." But here's some advice worth more than Marcus's $10,000. Success isn't about who has the biggest house or the most expensive toys. It's about building something that matters. When you understand that, maybe we can have dinner again. I sealed the envelope and handed it to Sarah. Should I clear your schedule for their next dinner invitation? She asked. No need, I smiled. I think they finally got the message. I turned back to my work, to the empire I'd built while they weren't watching. Sometimes the best revenge isn't showing people they were wrong about you. It's proving you were right about yourself all along. Me. I was exactly where I was meant to be. At the head of my own table, running my own empire, writing my own story. No more sitting at the far end watching others take credit for success. No more hiding my achievements to spare their egos. No more playing the family failure. Because sometimes, the biggest failure is not believing in someone who could change the world. And I had a world to change. 3 months after that fateful dinner, I sat in my penthouse office reviewing quarterly reports when Sarah knocked on my door. Your brother's here again, she said, trying to hide her amusement. 3rd time this week. Marcus had been camping out in our lobby every few days, desperately trying to get my attention. Each time wearing increasingly expensive suits as if that would somehow impress me. Send him up, I said, not looking up from my work. Let's see what today's pitch is. Marcus entered like a changed man. Gone was the arrogant strut, replaced by an almost hesitant shuffle. Evelyn, please just give me 5 minutes. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. The same type of chair he used to brag about having in his office. Except mine overlooked the entire city. Your 5 minutes started 30 seconds ago. I've been doing some thinking, he began, about what you said. About real talent versus empty boasts. I've looked at Phoenix's innovation reports, your sustainable technology initiatives, the global impact you're making. He swallowed hard. I want to be part of that. Not because you're my sister, but because what you're building here matters. I studied him carefully. And your hedge fund? His face flushed. After your team started selling their shares, our other investors got nervous. We're struggling. So this is about saving your business? No. He leaned forward. Well, partly. But it's more than that. Watching you these past months, seeing what real success looks like, it's changed how I think about everything. I opened my laptop, turning it to face him. Your fund made some interesting choices last year. Specifically, these 3 investments. I pointed to the screen. Tell me why they were mistakes. For the next hour, I grilled him on every decision, every strategy, every assumption he'd made. To my surprise, he didn't defend them. Instead, he broke them down critically, showing me he'd actually learned from his failures. Start in market analysis, I finally said. Entry level. Same as everyone else. If you last 6 months, we'll talk about advancement. His face lit up, then quickly sobered. Thank you. I won't disappoint you. No, I agreed. You won't. Because at the first sign of your old attitude, you're out. Family or not. After he left, Sarah brought in my afternoon coffee. Your sister called again. Something about Thomas and a potential collaboration. I smiled. Let me guess, his company's stock is dropping? Like a rock. Ever since word got out about Phoenix owning their latest acquisition. I took a sip of coffee, remembering all the times Sophia had smiled condescendingly at my cute little career. Send her the same message as last time. All business proposals go through proper channels. No exceptions. That evening I had a surprise visitor, my father. He stood in my office doorway looking smaller somehow, less intimidating than he had all those years. Nice view, he said, walking to the window. Better than mine ever was. What do you want, Dad? He turned and I saw something I'd never seen before, tears in his eyes. To apologize. Really apologize, not just because of who you've become, but because of who I failed to see you were all along. He pulled out an old newspaper clipping from his pocket. It was from my college graduation, a tiny article about my Technology Innovation Award. The award they'd all ignored in favor of Marcus's new sports car. I kept this, he said quietly. Even when I was telling you to take the safe route, something in me knew you were special. I was just too scared to admit it. Too locked into my old ways of thinking. Why are you showing me this now? Because I want you to know that even when I was wrong, even when I was pushing you toward what I thought was right, some part of me saw your light. I just didn't have the courage to let it shine. I stood up, walking to stand beside him at the window. Together we looked out at the city where I'd built my empire, right under their noses. There's a tech education program we're funding, I said after a long moment. For girls interested in STEM careers. We could use someone with business experience on the advisory board. Someone who's learned the hard way about overlooking potential. He understood what I was offering, not forgiveness exactly, but a chance to do better. To be better. I'd be honored, he said softly. My mother took longer to come around. She still sent weekly dinner invitations, each one accompanied by designer gifts and magazine articles about Phoenix technologies. I returned the gifts and archived the invitations. Finally, she showed up at my office one afternoon, immaculately dressed as always. You've ruined our family dinners, she announced. No, Mom. I exposed them for what they really were, exercises in superiority and judgment. She sank into a chair, suddenly looking every bit her age. What am I supposed to tell our friends? That my children are all working for their younger sister. Tell them the truth, I suggested. That your daughter built something extraordinary while everyone was too busy judging her to notice. 6 months later, I stood on a stage accepting the Technology Innovation of the Year award. In the audience, I spotted my family, not in the front row where they would have demanded to sit before, but scattered throughout, each finding their own place in this new reality. Marcus had surprised everyone by excelling in market analysis, his old arrogance transformed into focused determination. Sophia had finally left Thomas, starting her own tech-focused charitable foundation. My father's work with the education program was actually making a difference in young lives. And my mother? She'd finally stopped sending dinner invitations and started sending something else instead. News about young women in technology, potential candidates for our mentorship program, ideas for expanding our educational initiatives. As I gave my acceptance speech, I talked about the importance of believing in yourself even when no one else does. About how success isn't always visible on the surface. About how the greatest achievements often come from the people others underestimate. Afterward, at the reception, my family approached me, not as the failure they once mocked, but as the leader I'd become. Speech was a bit long, Marcus teased, but his eyes were proud. Some of us have more to say than "look at my new yacht," I shot back, and for the first time in years we laughed together genuinely. Later that night, alone in my office, I looked at the award sitting on my desk. Success, I'd learned, wasn't about proving others wrong. It was about proving yourself right. And sometimes, the longest journeys lead us exactly where we were meant to be all along. I picked up my phone and dialed Sarah. Schedule a dinner reservation for next week. Table for 6. Your family? She asked, surprised. Yes, I smiled. But this time I'll be sitting at the head of the table. After all, every empire needs its emperor. Or in this case, its empress.